Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting interview by Financial Insight. Today we have a very special interview that is taking place in Lusaka's industrial district, and we are at Zambian Breweries PLC's HQ, where I will be sitting down with none other than the country manager or country CEO, who will be sharing with me her journey as well as what's been going on at the company. So stay tuned for this interesting conversation. Welcome back, and as I'd indicated, I'm sitting down with, the chief or chiefness herself from Zambian Breweries. Thaís, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. You know, your name is Brazilian, so I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
It's Thaís.
Thaís.
Yes.
Thaís. No, but welcome to the show. And Financial Insight, I'm truly honored to finally have you on the platform. We have been tracking, and I think we have reported a number of times where you've had appearances as well as given keynote speeches, but it's such an honor to finally have you on the show.
It's my pleasure to have you. I've been following Financial Insight as well. It's such an important and source of news for us in Zambia, and I'm very glad you're here in our house, and you're always welcomed.
Absolutely, absolutely. But let's get straight into it. Obviously, this is the first time you're on our platform. Are you able to share with us what, about yourself in terms of what your journey has been like up until you took over the role as a country manager for Zambian Breweries?
Of course. I like to say that I started my career as a professional athlete when I was very young. Since then, I was a platform diver, so from 10 meters high. I was part of the national team of Brazil. And since then, I went to business school in Brazil. And I started my professional career as an investment banker. So I used to work for an American bank, Goldman Sachs. And I did that for about 4 years. It was a very important period in my life where I learned a lot about financial insights. I learned a lot about business acumen, how to be very strategic, how to be very knowledgeable in terms of numbers. And I had the privilege to work in M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and where I could see a diverse number of industries and talk to a lot of CEOs and really be able to understand the strategy behind all these companies. After that, I went for my MBA in business school in Chicago, and that's when I was recruited by AB InBev. I started my career in AB InBev about 10 years ago, and since then I've been in about 5 or 6 positions. So I started in a commercial strategy in the head office of Brazil. After that, I went to the market, so I went to one of our industries, so I had to move inside Brazil, and I did marketing and trade marketing. After that, I became director of, I was a district manager for one of our biggest breweries, let's say. Then I was the director of technology, so I went a lot of places. Okay. That's when digital transformation started to become something very important and relevant to the world, and I want to be in the verge of all these changes. So I moved to technology, and then that's when I moved to New York to help AB InBev to launch our business, our e-commerce, our platform, which is called BEES, and this was about 5 years ago, and I moved there and we created one of the biggest B2B platforms in the world. More than 70% of the revenue of AB InBev, which is the biggest breweries in the world, and it's the mother company of Zambian Breweries, it's transactioned through this platform. After 4 years in New York, I got selected, and I'm very honored to be the country manager here in Zambia, in Zambian Breweries. And I've been doing that in the past almost 2 years. And to finalize that, the beginning of this year, in January, I had my first baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. So I delivered it, and since I'm back from maternity leave, I'm here back in Zambia.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, your background is very, very interesting, and this is why my second question, which is around how you found the Zambian market space. Are you able to just share with us
Of course.
what it's been like over the 2-year tenure?
Of course.
Yes.
So I really appreciate and I really enjoy working in Zambia. I think Zambia, it's such a prosperous country. You guys, and I feel like I have the opportunity and the privilege to be here. We have so many opportunities in Zambia. The people are so nice, and I always like to say, what's your favorite part of Zambia? I always say is that the Zambians, because people are so nice, people are so helpful, people are so smart. There's so many good professionals to work with, and there's so many opportunities everywhere. In the beer market, but not only in the beer market. When you're talking about farmers, which we have the opportunity to work with, we have an a supply chain that is very comprehensive. When you're talking about different dynamics, different industries. However, when you ask me how was my 2 years here, of course I started in the beginning of 2024, and we all know that in 2024 we had the worst drought in the history of Zambia. So of course it has not been easy. It was a lot of learnings, but of course a very dynamic environment in which we had to adapt a lot. This came right in the same time as we launched our expansion. So we invested over $100 million in 2023. We launched in February 2024 our expansion because we saw a big demand that we were not being able to get inside our company. But that combined with the drought. Of course, things shaked a lot. It was not an easy year for any industry, for any company, for any business in 2024. However, we were able to grow. We grew 8% in volumes last year, almost 30% in top line in GTO. So we were able to capture part of the expansion. However, our costs raised a lot, so we had a lot of energy problems, of course, with the load shedding. A lot of our raw materials cost increased. It was a year of surviving, and with all the challenges that we had, I think we did a very good job in passing through and being able to grow, even with all the dynamics of the markets.
What's very interesting is that obviously post the drought, and it seems that you're showing quite a lot of resilience as a company. What would you say are some of the critical forces that are impacting the industry right now that you can pick out?
That's very interesting, the word you used, because that's the word, not only us in Zambian Breweries, but the beer market, and we've seen this, of course, post-COVID with all the other beer industries, and we are in more than 50 countries as AB InBev. We are a very resilient industry, and that's a privilege to be able to work with this. People, they drink beer, they appreciate drinking beer when they're happy and excited, but also when they're home in COVID. The beer industry is very, very resilient, and that's actually a very important characteristic when you want to put your energy and your money. However, you asked me what were the critical forces. Of course, macroeconomics, super challenging when the currency fluctuates so much as we fluctuate, and we have to import a lot of our raw materials. We source everything as much as possible in Zambia, so everything we can source in Zambia, we do, but there's some raw materials that we just can't. So for instance, the glass that we use in our beer, we need to import from different countries. And not only this, but we have a series of raw materials, and when the currency fluctuates, we get impacted. Other macroeconomic forces, they play a very important role in our business. Another important point here is, of course, the fiscal policy. It's very important for us that we have stability when we're talking about taxes. So right now we are working, we just had our taxes increased, hopefully momentarily. Of course, we understand the reason that this is happening. We understand that the government needs to collect money, and we support 100%. So we are working collaboratively with the government to understand what's the best way we can do this and what's the best way to find alternative sources so the government can really keep up with everything they need to do to run the country. So we are very cognizant of that, and it's really something that we're doing. It's very good to be able to have such a supportive government that's working with us and give us the opportunity to grow and to fulfill our demand. I think one thing I didn't say, that even though we grew a lot because of all this investment and all the cost of interest expense, the increase of the cost of raw materials, we went to net loss in 23 and 24. But this year, we're hoping to go back to profitability, and with more resilient and stable policies from the government, we understand that we're going to be able to be very sustainable, and Zambian Breweries is a company that will be here for now and for the next 100 years. I think a third very important, I would say four, but a third very important force, it's the illicit market.
That one's been very, very...
That's very, very important for us. So we all know we are the only brewers in Zambia, and we are very privileged to be able to be the only brewery. And I feel that we have here the Mosey brand, which comes from the biggest national attraction in the country, and we get the Mosey name, so we have all these assets and these privileges, and we have more than 95% of market share. However, when you consider the illicit markets, the illicit consists of 70% of the whole alcohol market. So when you talk about not only the beer industry, but the entire alcoholic industry, we're less than 30%. You have here the illicit that some statistics say is 70%, some say that is 75%. We are only 25 to 30%. So our biggest competitor, our biggest fight is against illicit. I'm happy to say that we are very aligned with the Zambian government. We are very aligned with ZRA. We are very aligned with other competitors, so the spirits and other players in this market. We are part of the coalition against illicit alcohol to really, and not only Mr. President, Honorable Minister of Finance, the Commissioner General of ZRA, we are all really connected, and all the other players in the industry, to combat this illicit market that is just bad for Zambia. Those illicits, they are really bad for the health of Zambians. So the highest index of people in the psychiatric divisions are from illicit alcohol.
Yes, we saw that report as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
They don't collect tax, so 70% of the alcohol consumed here in Zambia is not collecting taxes, which is not helping Zambia to grow, Zambia to pay their debts with all their debts, including IMF. So it's really, really, really bad, and it's the biggest threat that we have, so illicit. And I would say the fourth force that we have is the agricultural supply chains. We have, as I told you before, we source most of our raw materials locally. So as much as we can, all the malt that we use, all the malt that is available in the country, we buy locally. All the cassava. So we have an outgrower supply chain that is very, very important for us. It's been consistently developed for more than 10 years. And it starts with the cassava growers, the malt growers. It goes to our malting plant, which we have in the MFS. After this barley becomes malt, it goes to our breweries, and then it becomes the nice beer that you put in your fridge and is the cold beer that everyone drinks. But it all starts with the small scale farmers and farmers as a whole, which this is very, very, very important for us. And I think this is a very big advantage that Zambian breweries have that is very difficult to copy.
That's true, and that has a direct impact on communities because
100%.
Yes, absolutely.
So we have about 1,000 employees direct, plus the beer industry, according to Euromonitor, affects over 200,000 people here in Zambia. So it's a very important industry. So after it goes from the breweries, it goes to the distributors, then it goes to the retailers, and then it goes to the final consumer. So we really are very important to a lot of the businesses, and we help a lot of the communities from the sourcing, from the farmers, all the way to the final consumer.
Right. Now, despite all these forces that are impacting businesses, there's obviously opportunities. There's always a silver lining. What sort of opportunities do you see in terms of growth and innovation in the brewery sector?
I think that's a very, very big opportunity of growth that we have at the moment. It's with the cassava-based products. So we have some cassava-based like Eagle and Mosey Light. So when we're talking about growth, the biggest source of growth for us has been in the affordable segment, which is very good because the affordable segment is the one that combats, is the one that most combats the junta and the illicit markets. And we see a huge opportunity there with this cassava-based products like Eagle, Eagle Extra, Mosey Light, because it's in a very important and relevant price point to compete with this illicit. And it's also cassava-based, which really helps this outgrower and all these farmers that I just described to you. So I think this is one of our biggest opportunities that I see going forward in Zambian breweries. And the second one, I would say it's not like a clear, it's obvious, but it's not, which is stability. If we get stability, we have everything to be able to grow, and it just wasn't the data, but as we grow, as Zambian Breweries grows, we can help Zambia to grow. So we really need the stability to be able to just keep doing what we're doing, to be able to price the products in the correct price, so we don't need to increase prices so much. With all that, I'm sure we have one of a very complete portfolio. We don't have not only beers, but we have ciders like Flying Fish and Brutal Fruit. We have a very complete portfolio for different price points, different tastes, different ABVs, which is the alcohol content, to satisfy the clients with all our products. I can guarantee to you with high quality, which is what we're very proud of. We've been doing that for over 50 years, and we hope to do that for the next 100.
Now, we know the trickle-down effect, especially with cassava, a value chain in terms of supplying into Zambian breweries. But what other ways in which is your organization supporting local communities, especially from a CSR sort of standpoint?
I'm very proud to say that sustainability is a big area for us, and particularly for us as AB InBev and Zambian Breweries. But particularly for me, it's one of the areas that I really appreciate, and I like to, I don't say waste, I like to invest a lot of my time in sustainability. So we have different areas in which we appoint. I would say the first one that I want to say, it's Mpongwe, which is a recycling initiative. So we have at least 10 different centers, and we not only help these communities to recycle, but we teach them how to recycle. We are proud to say that we just got this 350,000 grant, and Mpongwe, it's going to stay here for a long time. Another very important source of sustainability that we have, it's water. So water, it's the most important product to produce a beer, and not only here in Zambian Breweries, but worldwide. it's a very, very, very important point for us. So here in Zambia, we have a partnership with WWF. Yes, so very, very interesting partnership with them. We are helping to re-energize the Kafue Basin. We also have this super interesting program with WWF that we are helping these communities that lives by the Kafue Basin to plant seeds from their local that were originally in there and you don't see as much. And as they plant this, they sell and they also become self-sustainable. So this for us is very important to not only teach this population, these communities, but help them to live, to be here forever. We have many other water projects as well. So we use every water that we use in our plant. We reuse many, many times. The last time we reuse when the water can't really be used, it's to clean the floor. So even the water that we clean our floors in the breweries come from water that is a byproduct of our beer.
You know, one does get a sense that sustainability is at the core of your leadership.
Yeah.
How do you see sustainability overall being so vital for, you know, the business strategy for Zambian Breweries?
I always say sustainability, it's not an area, it's core. Without sustainability, you can't be here for the next generations. And Zambian Breweries will be here for the next generation. So it's in the core of who we are. It's in the core. So the farmers program, it's in the core of of the beer that we make. We are so proud to be able to hold the name Mosi, hold all the beers that we have, that I would say that sustainability is not an area that I need to go and talk about this separate area. It's really intricate in all of our operations, in the way we process, in the way we think, in the way we make decisions.
Right. That's very, very interesting. And, you know, we could go on, but, you know, I do have one final question,
of course,
you know, for you. We're towards the end of Q3. Are you able to just share with us what the business outlook looks like? But then also I want to take advantage to just find out what sort of trends excite you over the near to long term.
Of course. So let's talk about Q3 and then trends. So this year we are rebounding from last year. So it's not our best growth year in the history of Zambian Breweries, but I would say that we are setting the foundations for the growth. So in a year, in 2024, that all our foundations were changed, and we had a lot of movements as well. When you extend, you invest in a lot in your breweries, we've put a lot of money here. So 2024 and 2025 were years of, 25 mainly was a year of really rebounding forward from a difficult year, getting the right people. So I'm very proud to say that we have a team that is super strong nowadays. I am a leader that I always tell my team that my role is to really just guide you and set the strategy and help you to make the decisions, because no one is better to make the decisions than in my legal decisions than my legal head to make my corporate affairs decisions as my head of corporate affairs. So in the end, I am super proud to say that we have a very strong team and we're setting the foundations, and 2025 will be a year that we are setting everything, we're rebounding from all the challenges that we had in the past to build a 2026 that we are back to profitability, back to growth, back to be a super exciting company, which I think we always are. Working with beer, it's a passion. And what's the trends? I think there are important and interesting trends that we're seeing. Of course, we're seeing all the dynamics in the world, with all these changes that we cannot forget about. I think that a very important trend that we see with artificial intelligence and all these revolutions that we're seeing in technology is that we need to be more consumer-centered. I cannot offer to you, doesn't exist more that one size fits all. All the colors are good if they're black. I think we are out of this world. With the data that we can collect, with AI, we are able to really understand what the consumer needs and be able to adapt. What's the right portfolio? What's the right size? What's the right price for this consumer? So I think being consumer-centric, it's one of the biggest trends that we all that work in the manufacturing need to think about. And another very interesting trend that I think we have is, here we have the privilege to be the only brewery in Zambia. And I always tell my team, we need to guarantee that we maximize this that we have. Zambia is a country, Zambians, we love to be happy, to go to events, to drink a beer, to cheers for a better future, a future with more cheers. And we're the only brewery here, so I think this is a very important trend on how can we maximize this privilege that we have to be the only brewery in Zambia, and really reignite the love that the Zambians have for our beers.
Matthias, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, it was a privilege.
Absolutely. So there you've heard it for yourself. We have been speaking to the principal at Zambian Breweries, and it's been such an insightful conversation. So stay tuned for more insights as we continue to track Zambian Breweries' story right here on the Financial Insight Show. I've been your host, Melo Sekunda, and as we always say at Financial Insight, get to know.